Hello, and welcome to Addicted Like Us, a podcast discussing all things written by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I'm your host, Haley, and today I have Olivia, aka Olivia Fantasy Reads, with me to talk about Kiss the Sky, Book 4 in the Addicted series. To note, just like last time with Addicted for Now, this book is a little longer. There's lots to talk about, so this will be broken into two parts. So this is part one of the Kiss the Sky discussion. And then next week, we will be posting part two of the discussion. So a quick recap. I'm Haley, a longtime reader and lover of Krista and Becca's work. I'm also a part-time illustrator, and I had the privilege of working on the special edition covers for the Leica series. Now, I just love to spend my time talking about all of my favorite books, aka anything written by Krista and Becca. So the Addicted Like Us podcast was created so I can sit down with friends and discuss all our thoughts. So let me introduce you to Olivia.
Hello, I'm Olivia. I am fairly new to the whole addicted world. I think I started in November. Oh, I'm almost at my anniversary of last year.
So sweet.
And I was actually terrified to read the books because I thought there was going to be like too much emotional damage going on, and I put it off forever. And then finally, between Alan and Shan, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And
you're going to commit yourself to the pain.
Basically. And it was a commitment because Krista and Becca Ritchie is all I read for 4 months till I got to the end.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk about this book. I've got a lot of thoughts. Kiss the Sky is very special to me. I feel like I've mentioned it plenty of times on my social media and probably on here too. But yeah, I think I mentioned it in the Addicted for Now podcast. But Kiss the Sky was the very first book that I ever read from Krista and Becca.
Oh, really?
It was back when it was
The
marketed as the Addicted series and the Calloway Sisters series. So I went to Goodreads looking for a spicy book, and Goodreads has their list where people categorize everything, and Kiss the Sky was there, and it said that it was book 1. So I was like, all right, perfect place to start. Or actually, no, it was that I didn't even realize it was part of a series either. Because I think it took me another year to realize that Daisy wound up getting a book afterwards.
Oh, that's exciting, though. It's
I went back looking again, and I was like, oh, I remember the sister from Kiss the Sky. She gets a book too? Little did I know. All right, so before we dive fully into this discussion, I want to add a massive spoiler warning. If you have not read Kiss the Sky, you will be so spoiled. This is a full deep dive into the book, so please return after you have read this. And as another recap, so for the last 2 books, we have been in Lily and Lo's point of views, and we learned that Lily is a sex addict, Lo is an alcoholic, they're childhood best friends, and in the very last book, Lily's sex addiction was leaked to the public, and it was very scandalous news. And her family's company, Fizzle, which is like a competitor to Pepsi and to Coke, they're a soda company. Their stocks went way down because of the scandal. Rose is Lily's sister. She had a fashion company that struggled because of the scandal. All of the family companies were struggling after the scandal.
And that's when Daisy found out about the addiction.
Yes, that was yes. So in Addicted for Now, every character finally knew that Lily was a sex addict. Before that, it was only Reich, Connor, and Rose that knew about her secret.
Yes.
I think that's all the big important points. But now we will be going into Rose and Connor's point of view. And we could kind of see that set up at the end of Addicted for Now. And I loved the way it was set up, and it leads perfectly into finally getting into their heads in this one. So the synopsis is: a virgin ice queen heiress and the arrogant god who wants to melt her. Rose Calloway thought she had everything under control. At 23, she's a Princeton graduate, an academic bowl champion, a fashion designer, and the daughter of a Fortune 500 mogul, but not everything comes easy. When Rose's fashion line is in peril, she plans an unconventional solution to save it. Making matters more intense, she agrees to be in a relationship with her godly college rival Connor Cobalt. At 24, Connor Cobalt bulldozes weak men. Confident and smart as hell, Connor vows to help Rose outside of the bedroom and inside. But melting this ice queen is a challenge no one has been able to succeed at. And now they're living together. Okay, so now we can dive into Kiss the Sky,
Yes.
which starts out with Connor's point of view first, the prologue, which
was exciting.
oh yeah, I love that we get
all the characters coming up now. It starts with did we get Low already, or were we still only in Lily's?
Low in Addicted for Now.
Okay.
But at the end of that book, Lily had been questioning, like, I wonder what it sounds like in Connor's head. I'm never gonna know what Connor's thoughts sound like. And then, like, right off the bat, we're like,
you think
we get what Connor's thoughts sound like.
Lily would totally read the Addicted series.
Oh, she would. She absolutely would. I would tell the insight.
Is this book about us?
Oh. But yeah, so it's kind of like a flashback chapter. It's a prologue. So we get a little more background into Connor's history. Because he's a bit more elusive at this point. We haven't learned too much about him other than he knew Rose in high school. Like, they were high school rivals. That he's known Rose through the academic bowl circuit, but that was like roughly all we knew about his past.
Yes.
And that his mom owned or his family owned a company. I don't know if we knew that it was just his mom at that point. But that his family had a very successful, wealthy company as well.
Yeah.
And that's Cobalt Inc. But we learned that he went to, I say Faust.
Oh, I say Faust.
Because the narrators in the book call it Faust.
And that's funny because I listen to it.
I say Faust too, but I always call it Faust.
Oh. But, I like this part because it's like the first time we see them like bicker, like go at it. Like,
yes. So
at that age.
We learned that he went to an all-boys boarding school, but then we get this little bit between him and Rose at the end of this prologue. And yeah, she's touring Penn because he's a year older than her and like a year ahead of her at this point. So he's already at Penn. She's touring colleges and she tours Penn. And some girl spills soda on Rose's dress.
What was her name?
Caroline, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, she tries to sabotage. She sabotages Rose. Rose thinks it's academic gluttony.
To be in that world.
Oh yeah, and I mean, so Rose is obviously accepted to Penn at this point, but it was like she's touring the honors college, and it was like, would you go to any school if you weren't in the honors college, Connor? No. They have different bars. They set themselves at a different level. Yeah, so Connor does try to offer her his blazer as like, your dress is dirty. I can help you. You can cover it up. And she's like, I'm not taking your help.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to owe him.
Yeah, no, she doesn't want to owe him. She also thinks it's like Connor asks for favors. And she doesn't, so like she doesn't want to owe him a favor. And also in this chapter that he kind of talks about, like, all of his action, like whatever he does, the cost of his action needs to be, like, the benefit needs to be greater than whatever cost of the action is that he's done. So he's always trying to further himself, and she knows that.
It's so like every interaction, he wants to know, like, how is this going to benefit me in the future?
Exactly.
So, like,
and how can I manipulate this to work in my favor? And Rose knows that. So she's like, are you trying to manipulate me right now? Like, what? You have ulterior motives besides handing me a blazer, and I don't want it. Which, yeah. But so she won't accept his help. She won't take the blazer.
That's when they talk about Caroline too.
Yes.
Because she's like, why are you so nice to her? And that's where we get because she'll benefit me in the future and
Yes.
type deal.
And Rose also talks about like Connor talks differently to different people. He has different faces that he puts on, which we kind of see a little bit of from Addicted to You into Kiss the Sky. Like Connor's face has definitely his behavior definitely changed when he was first friends with Lillian Lowe. He would talk, and it was mentioned at the end of Addicted for Now that like he'd say things like wicked and dude and all of that
It was so
stuff.
funny. Especially because Connor wasn't supposed to be a character. Like,
I know. I just
so,
love how much he evolved
me too.
into who he is. But
Like, I
it's
can't
so funny
imagine
to
this series without him. Like,
oh,
he
is like this godly presence.
I know. And that's also why I love this book so much, is because it's the first time we see like cracks in that. Like,
Yes.
he's not all perfect and all together.
No.
Pretty close, but not all.
Yeah, he's definitely, as much as he wants to deny it, he's not a full god. He is human, and he has some human qualities about him. But we also, in this prologue, hear Connor again reiterate that love is an illogical concept to him. He does not believe in love.
That's so sad. And that really took me... Okay, so I had two totally different experiences reading this book. Because the first time I read it, I was very like harsh on Connor, because I was like, oh, you're so smart, but you can't understand this concept. We can talk about it later, but but when I went back and after knowing the characters more, it like I looked at it so different, because I didn't read my review before I reread it. And so it's like by the time I got to Some Kind of Perfect, I already had readjusted my views of Connor because we got so much information.
Right.
But when I was reading it the first time, I was harsh on him. Like, my review, I was like, wow. And so when I read it back, I was like, wow, I was mean.
Come on, Connor. You're so smart and you don't get love.
I was like, what's wrong with this man? He's like, not that smart. But yeah, it was funny because I read it back and I literally was laughing. So
yeah, cool. I like that.
But yeah.
But I completely understand that. I mean, when I first read the Addicted series, it was hard for me to get to understand Lillian Lowe.
Yeah.
And then just the more you read and then reread and then pick up on all of the little Easter eggs and just see their growth, you're like, all right, so we end with a prologue, and then it flashes forward to 5 years to the present timeline, which is 5 months after Addicted for Now ended. So Addicted for Now ended in July. We're now in January of the next year.
Okay.
And we get Rose's point of view, which we got Rose's point of view at the end of Addicted for Now. If you have a Berkeley copy of the book, then you were able to read her point of view with, well, Addicted for Now has their first date as the bonus chapter, so you were able to read it then. All right, so we're in Rose's point of view, and she's at a business meeting, and we meet Scum of the Earth, one of my least favorite KBR characters, Scott Van Wright.
Van Wright. Hold on. Can I turn the echo on for that one? Hold on. Scott Van Wright.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Normal. Okay. Yes. So, and from the beginning, he's an ass. Oh,
he is an ass. So he's this Hollywood exec, and basically what's happening is Rose's unconventional way to like help her fashion company, help improve the family's
image.
Yeah, public image is to do a reality show, and Scott is he's going to be the producer of this reality show, and he's super scummy. Already, she like he demands things of her, and she tries to hand him like the stack of contracts, and it falls to the floor, and he's like, you're gonna pick that up, and makes her bend over to get it while she's in a skirt, and it's just like, oh, I hate you already.
Yeah, he's gross. But one thing I did like pull from that I didn't catch the first time was I didn't realize how hard he actually said, do you want lawyers to look at this? Like, and push that on
Oh,
them. Yeah, because I was like, oh, he did actually kind of say that, which
yes.
you'll see why later.
Yes. It's important to note that Rose is trying to be very
She wants to
in
establish that she's equal or above
yes, she
him.
wants to be in charge, and she's trying to make Scott see that she's in charge. And he's really not having it, which I don't love. But yeah, she winds up being the only person that has looked over these contracts. Connor wanted her to bring his lawyers to the meeting, and she did not bring the lawyers because she is an independent woman and she can take care of things herself.
And
And she's
she's
not going to
taking
bring her
law
boyfriend's
classes.
lawyer. Yeah, she's been to law classes at Princeton. She knows what she's doing.
My poor baby Rose.
I love her
I know.
regardless. I know what happens, and I'm still over here like,
I
yeah,
know.
I believe in you. You are an independent, fierce woman.
It's like, you make complete sense, Rose. I understand. It's all
Yes,
Scott's fault. Always and always.
it's 100% Scott's fault.
I swear, he is my villain origin story. I don't think I ever hated someone so much in a book.
Yeah, and it just grows. We already dislike him in chapter 1, and it will continue to grow, unfortunately, for a very long time. But yes, so okay, so I think that's everything that yeah, it's basically Rose is really. It's interesting to see too. She's being super hostile to him, and Scott's kind of acting like it's a turn on too, which is just.
But it's so funny because you get to see the comparison, like, because it's a turn on for Scott and it's a turn on for Connor. But with Connor,
Right.
it's more like he likes that power in her, and to see her so feisty, and he likes that he feels like he's gonna top that, like he's gonna put her down.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just icky. It's so gross.
Yeah, there's like similarities between the I don't want to call it banter with Scott, but her banter with Connor is very similar to her hostility with Scott. And there's like a little crossover there, but it's different.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why Connor is so much better for her than Scott. But there is that similarity there. So we'll see a little bit more of it as the book continues. So then chapter 2, Rose is coming home to the Princeton house. And they're now being filmed. So she's being followed by one of the cameramen, and their names are Savannah, Brett, and Ben. There's 3 cameramen following them. And we also learned that Connor has moved into the Princeton house. At the end of Addicted for Now, it was just Rose, Lily, and Lo in the Princeton house, and Connor has officially moved in.
And I love that because you're like, oh, they definitely slept together, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. It's like, okay, so they're taking their relationship to the next level, and it's like very, very at a glacial pace.
And and I love seeing like Connor like kind of, little teasing dirty talk when he's like, oh, the key in the hole. And
yes. Yeah, Rose is like, you do a good job putting that key in that hole.
Poor Rosie. She's so sweet.
Yes.
Says no one ever.
But also we see now that they're being filmed, Lily and Lo are hamming it up for the cameras so much. There's like a lot more PDA between them now.
Which says a lot because there was a lot of PDA before.
Oh yeah, they're like the ultimate PDA couple, and they're like, but I think it's mentioned in this chapter that a lot of people think that Lily and Lo's engagement. So that's the other thing that happened at the end of Addicted for Now was when Lily's sex addiction was leaked, her family made this list of things that she needed to do. She needed to see a sex therapist. She needed to do a press conference addressing the scandal. And then in order for her to have her trust fund back, she doesn't have her trust fund right now. The only way for her to get that back is for her to marry Lo, and there is a date that they need to get married on. So that's something that's going to be part of this book too, is this wedding.
Yeah, planning their wedding.
But because like they were in the middle of this scandal, a lot of people think at this point that Lily and Lo's engagement and their relationship is fake, and that they're just doing this to improve their public image, and Lily and Lo are like, fuck you. This is absolute, like, just middle finger to everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to make out on camera, and you're going to see that our love is very real.
Yes, I love it.
I do love that, because I'm saying it out loud, and it's like,
I love
for
how
so
much
long,
Lo...
the relationship wasn't real.
Yeah.
And now it is real, and people are questioning it, and they're like, no, we were pretending for so long. We know it's goddamn real.
Yeah.
This is real.
And I just love the way they love each other. It's just so excessive,
sweet.
but like, it's unhealthy, but it's also like, oh, I want that.
They talk about how production has planned to have a psychic come to the house. And we get a couple of things in this one. So one, we see Connor's disdain for anything magical or mystic or anything that's not rooted in logic and reasoning and science. Does not believe in that. But then we also get that, I can't remember exactly how it comes about, but there's a bet that Rose and Lo place. And Lo thinks the psychic is going to make someone's going to cry. And Rose thinks that, like, she believes in her sisters, that they're not, like, I think she says Lily is kind of a wild card, but she believes in her, that she's still going to throw her vote in favor of Lily.
It's always belief in Lily.
Yes, she believes in Lily. I love it.
Rose is the best sister, like, she is ever.
Such a supportive sister.
Yeah.
And if Rose loses, then she has to give Connor a lap dance. Oh, yeah. And I love that it's like, well, what if you what if I win? And hers is, well, then I don't have to give you a lap dance. I literally want nothing more than to not have to give you the lap dance.
That is my reward prize. I'll take it.
Yes. So then next chapter.
Oh, sorry, real quick. I'm going to go back. I think it was cool too, though, to see how, like, Rose is like logically thinking about it, but she was also very kind of open to it. She was like, I'm a little superstitious, like, I could, get on board. And it was kind of fun to see that, because you almost put them at this point, like, on the same level, like they have the same beliefs. And then to see it's a little, not quite the same.
Like, Rose and Connor are both very smart characters, but Rose still is a lot more emotional than Connor is. And she is a little more of a superstitious believer in the unknown versus Connor, who's just like, no. Science.
She's someone that I feel has to have it laid out in front of her so she can see the full picture before she decides. Yeah. And if she doesn't get to see, like, exactly, like, how things are going to play out, she doesn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why she's scared to have sex with Connor, too. Is like, I can't remember what chapter it is that she mentions it, but at some point in this book, she talks about, like, I'm afraid to have sex with him because I haven't done it, and I like to prepare ahead of time. And how do I prepare for this?
I mean, she could just go online and watch a sex tape.
She's like, I'm afraid I'm going to be so sloppy and awkward, and I don't want to do that.
Well, it's okay, Rose.
Yeah, I know.
We all were.
But so then in chapter 3, we get Connor in the shower getting himself off.
This was the point I messaged Haley and I said, Haley, are we allowed to talk about this on the pod? And she said, yeah, it's rated explicit. And I was like, so Connor's cock is fair game?
Yes. It is fair game.
Let's go then.
It's so very hard not to talk about it.
Oh, it is very hard. Sorry, I'm like a 13-year-old kid right now.
It's okay. But so Connor is he's getting himself off, and Rose comes in, and he mentions that this is something, like, in the past, this would be a time where he'd stop, like, make her a little more comfortable and not push her boundaries, but he's kind of over that. And she, like, whips the door open and is glaring at him, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna keep going. You're gonna see all of it. And she's trying so hard not to look at him, but she does look down. Yeah.
As she should.
Yeah.
Rose, come on, Rose.
He's yours at this point.
He's got the body of a Greek god. Okay.
Yes. There's a moment, too, where Rose says something like, I think Connor says there's, like, 2 chefs in the kitchen, and then Rose is like, 2 dominants, no submissive. And Yes, yes. There's lots of foreshadowing at the beginning of this book that I was picking out. And Connor, I think this is in Connor's point of view. So it's his thoughts saying that he senses that Rose is not a dominant, that she's actually submissive, but she doesn't recognize that. And that's part of the reason she's been putting on the brakes when it comes to them having sex, because she thinks that she's a dominant and she doesn't understand.
She doesn't need a man. That was one of my favorite quotes from Ricochet. Ricochet, when they're at the party and she's crying and she's like, I don't need a man, and Connor's like, you don't, but you need me. And I'm like, yes, you do.
Yes, it's not about Connor being a man. It's just like about having a partner to support you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. There's also, I was surprised. He says it twice in the book, but I was surprised. The first one, he goes, Connor says, I grew up wanting to reach the peak of physical and mental perfection. It's an unattainable goal, but one I seek. People hope to touch the sky. I dream of kissing it. And I love that it's like this meaningful quote that so many people have highlighted. And it's literally him talking about how I have a really good body.
I love me.
It is peak Connor Cobalt narcissism.
Again, it's just hot in the book.
It is.
In the real world, it's kind of scary. But
yeah, I forgot that. Like, I know the second one, and it's definitely more meaningful at that point. But this one, I was like, oh my gosh, he's so into himself at this point. Got it.
I remember like questioning too. Like, it's funny. Like, I wasn't ever someone that reread books. Like, I actually, honestly, like, I reread Addicted to You because I wanted to do a reread. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, this made me like sick. No, I can't do this. But rereading Kiss the Sky, I was like, I need to reread this because there's so many differences between the first time. Like, the first time I remember being like, who does he think he is to tell Rose she's a submissive, and like,
oh yeah, I think I was the same. I was like, no, she can be a dominant. Don't tell her what she can and can't be.
Yeah, it was wild. And like, to know them fully, and I think, hi, I'm gonna get mom on y'all for a second, but to go into it, like, you don't really ever know someone's full story, so you can't just judge from the moment you read it, like that one scene, because there's a whole other thing going on all the way through.
Oh yeah.
Follow me for more unsolicited advice.
So also at the end of this chapter, Rose asks Connor to talk to Lo and have like the birds and the bees talk. Like, Lily can't get pregnant. Please have that talk with him. I think she's so glad too. I think there's a part of her that's like, oh, thank God Connor is friends with Lo.
Mm-hmm.
So that, because I think I could see her wanting to go to Lo and being like, I'm gonna lay down the law, but like just to make him uncomfortable, because Rose and Lo butt heads. That is their dynamic, and it has always been their dynamic. But also, I think she wants him to take it seriously, and he'd probably take it a little more seriously from Connor. And she's like, okay, good. I've got someone else to help me with this. Which, Rose, you're asking for Connor's help. Like, let's just point that out now. You're afraid to ask for his help, but here we are.
Yeah.
But she asks Connor to talk to Lo, and he asks for a favor. And the favor is basically that he gets a little more intimate with her, like hikes her leg up around his hip or his waist, and sticks his thumb in her mouth. And it's like that first step, he's finally inside her in some small way, but like first steps. Rose is the ice queen, and we are moving at a very glacial pace here, so this is a big step.
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not.
I was in my 20s as well.
Yeah, no. And Rose is very, very in favor of, like, you can be a lily, or you can be a rose, and there's no timeline for when you have sex for the first time, and Rose would want you to do it when you're most comfortable.
And that's one of my favorite parts about this series, really, because how they capitalize on, like, oh, it's okay for guys to do it, but not girls,
Yeah.
And like, I like how they did a good job.
Yes.
Breaking that down.
On your own timeline.
Yeah.
God. got that out eventually. And yeah, so then it was in the last chapter that we learned that they postponed the psychic because they needed higher production value. And we learn what that means, which is
Moving day.
Yes. Production wants them to leave the Princeton house where it was just 4 of them living. And now Reich and Daisy are moving in with them to a townhouse in Philly. And it's like a townhouse that's rigged up so that there are cameras watching them, not in the bathroom or the bedroom. That was, Rose said there were no cameras allowed in the bathroom or the bedroom per the contract. But it's still
They did sweep it, too.
Yes, they did do a sweep of the house just to check, but the cameras are still going to be watching them constantly. So even if the cameramen aren't there, they'll be filmed. Rose is kind of uncomfortable, and Connor's like not necessarily happy about it, but this is Scott pushing this, and Connor's upset because it's like, how did Scott talk my girlfriend into this? I don't like that he managed to convince her to up and leave and make herself uncomfortable for this situation.
Yeah.
And Rose keeps trying to justify it, and Connor's upset. He's like, this sounds like Scott coming out of your mouth, and that's the last place I want him to be.
I'm literally looking at the line. All I hear is Scott Van Wright in your mouth, and that really is the last place I want another man to be.
Also, really quick, too, there's only one communal bathroom, too. There's not like, they have to all share this bathroom.
And the showers are set up like dorms, kind of. No,
yeah, it's like
lockers. Yeah, like college locker rooms. Like, they have like partitions up to like the top of you, but
you're like their shoulders, so they can still very clearly see someone in the next stall over showering. It's a
uncomfortable situation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, so there's a quote here too. It's just don't ask me to be nice to the psychic. I don't care what you do as long as you're here. I thought you could do everything by yourself, darling. I can, but I like your help sometimes.
So cute.
They're so cute. And then Connor talks dirty to her, and she's like grabbing his mic to try and see if, like, because they're all wearing mic packs so that their sounds can be picked up for the show. And she's like trying to turn off his microphone because he's talking dirty to her. She's like, I don't know if I want production to be able to hear this. And Connor's like, I don't even care. Like, I'm going to talk dirty to you right now. Everyone can hear. And there's also a part where Rose says something like, I'd feel really guilty if I accidentally slapped you. And Connor's like, well, I'd punish you for it, but you'd like the punishment. And we're just like getting all of this foreshadowing of like how Connor actually is. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we meet Sadie again. Sadie comes into the house and she's carrying a dead rat with her. And Connor's like, Sadie hunts like a champion. It's like, oh my God. Connor, that's disgusting. Your girlfriend has OCD, and like even a normal person would be really disgusted to learn that there are rats in the house. But yeah, so they have to take care of the rats eventually. I love that Rose is like, I cannot cohabitate with rodents. Actually, that's a lie. I've lived with Lo, but this is where I draw the line. Poor Rose.
I adore her though.
I do too.
So.
And then we get Scott comes into the house.
Yeah. Dun dun dun.
Yeah. He just leaves a nasty taste in your mouth.
Always. Literally.
But so Scott comes in and he's carrying a duffel bag with him. And I think this is the first moment that Connor has met Scott. Like, he hasn't met Scott up until this point. We can see how hostile they are with each other. But we learn that Scott is moving into the townhouse too because production wants a love triangle. Yeah. And Rose is like, no, you can't break up Lily and Lo. And they're like, no, it's not between Lily, Lo, and Scott. It's between Rose, Connor, and Scott. So Scott's going to pretend to be her ex-boyfriend so that they can have this love triangle.
I remember being so mad at this.
Yeah, it was just
so mad. The first read. This read, yes. I was still mad about it, but
and it's also that he's not, I don't know if I can't remember if it's specifically called out in that part, but Scott is pretending to be her ex-boyfriend, and it's also not going to be mentioned that he's the producer of the show. Like, that's not going to be included as part of the reality show. He's just her ex-boyfriend. And we also learn the name of the show, which is Princesses of Philly. Very iconic name.
Yes. They talk about Savannah in this one, the redheaded camera woman.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that kind of made me mad because Rose kind of likes her and like grows attached. Yeah, like she's kind of like out of all of them, she's the good one.
It's Brett, Ben, and Savannah, and she doesn't really like the guy cameraman, but she'll believe in the female camera woman.
Yeah.
She's all about the female empowerment. So then into the next chapter, we have the psychic come for a visit. I think we learned first that because of the family's rise in infamy, I guess, at this point, because of Lily's scandal, Daisy has gone from just this sort of faceless high fashion model into supermodel status. And she's posing a lot more suggestively at this point. But she's still, it's January, so she's still 16 at this point, and she'll be turning 17 in February.
And it's kind of like crazy to think about because even before the scandal leaked, I remember in Addicted to You, they were talking about how she was posing with very little clothing on.
Yes.
Like,
but it's like they're continuing to push that bar. And yeah, I mean, I guess the older she gets, they're trying to justify it as, well, she's almost 18. I guess we can keep going with like, I hate how they exploit her so much. But then, I think it's the joke about, because I think it's guys could be jacking off to Daisy, and then it was who's
girls
looking
can jill off, Lily says.
Yes. It was like, if girls are looking at a magazine and doing something like that, are they jacking off too? And it's the Jack and Jill went up the hill.
It's just so Lily. Like,
I know. It's like she's not innocent, but at the same time, so innocent.
Yeah. And that's vice versa. Rose is so harsh and so smart and out there, but she's the one that's kind of, I wouldn't say innocent, but she's like hesitant.
Yes. We see more of Connor being snarky. We also, Madame Charmaine is the name of this psychic, and she does a reading on Daisy, and it's so ridiculous. She's like, you are single now, but very soon you will find someone. And Daisy's like, well,
I already have
a boyfriend. And it's like, Connor's sitting here like, okay, so how are we defining sight now? Like, what kind of premonitions are you having at this point? We don't know who her boyfriend is. She has not brought him around at this point. And I can't remember if it's in this chapter too, where she's like, well, I haven't brought him around because he's dumb. Why are you even dating him then? Poor Daisy. But yeah, so.
I like Reich's reaction too. Like, but, yeah, like, he's like, you do? You have a boyfriend? Who? Why haven't we met him?
Yeah. Why haven't we vetted this person yet? So we learn that Daisy is dating someone. And then Rose gets her reading, which I love. It's that Rose is very fertile, and she senses twin boys in Rose's future. And Rose at this point is so, like, we've learned, even as far as Addicted to You, Rose does not like children. And to be told that she's gonna have twins in her future, and she's like, oh my god, no, I don't want kids.
And I totally, like, this is probably like, I feel like when people ask my favorite character, it's really hard, especially between Lily and Rose, because I feel like certain parts I relate to both of them. But I never wanted kids. And then, like, I had one, and I was like, oh, this is mine. Like, back up. Like, nobody's touching this. She's mine. And, like, so that plays into what I was saying earlier about Rose needing it played out. Rose is afraid, like, she doesn't want kids because she doesn't want to have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Like, and that's definitely where because if you look at every way she talks about not wanting to have kids, it's because she doesn't want to mess them up and she doesn't want to, do that. And so, but I do feel that.
So after Rose's reading, we get the psychic is like, I'm picking up on negative energy and it's coming from you. And she points at Lily and she basically accuses Lily of not wanting
to get married.
Yeah, she's like, and she's not into the wedding and not wanting to go through with it. And like at this point, we already know that Madame Charmaine is a crock of shit. Like she clearly does not have any kind of sight, what with Daisy. And so this definitely feels more like production is kind of behind feeding this information to her and
Ooh,
trying to
I didn't
cause
think about
drama.
it that way.
Yeah, that's the way I've looked at it. Is like, yeah, all right, she's already discredited herself at this
with
point.
Daisy.
And to sense this energy, like, oh, are you going to get married? Like, yes, this is very public knowledge at this point, and it just feels like you're trying to create drama between Lily and Lo, because that would be great for a reality
Television.
show.
And as a former like major fan of The Bachelorette and Bachelor, I can attest they do that stuff. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy. It's so good though.
Yeah. But so Lily is like trying to, because this is all being filmed too. And Lily's like, no, I love Lo. I want to be married to him. She's denying all of the psychics accusations, and she goes to kiss Lo, but she's like clearly in this bad mental state. So Lo's pulling back, which startles Lily. She elbows a candle. The candle like catches a napkin and a paper plate on fire, and like the psychic is freaking out because her tarot cards are laid out and could catch on fire. And I love that it's like, and Daisy's picking up the napkin that's on fire going, woo, whoa, and like, ow, it burns. And Rick's like, why are you picking up fire? And I love that it's like Rose is explaining all of this, and she's like, and it makes it sound like she's in charge. But if we were to actually like pull back and look at the scene, Rose is being really frantic too, and like trying in a crazy way to put out the fire with water. And then we get Connor, and he like walks over with a fire extinguisher and takes care of everything. But after all of this drama, Lily is crying, which means that Rose lost her bet and she will have to give Connor a lap dance. And Lo is really mean about it too. Like Lily has stuck her face in Lo's chest at this point, and Rose is like, "Oh no, she didn't cry or anything." And Lo like pulls Lily's head away
so they can see.
We can all see that Lo's shirt is wet from Lily's tears. And
Lo
like,
was on something in this book. Like he was.
Oh yeah,
he has a lot.
We do get a rain check because Lily is clearly upset, and they're not going to make Rose do a lap dance while Lily's crying.
Yeah.
So we have to wait. But yeah, Lo's not on Rose's side when it comes to this, and Rose has to. So Rose is going to have to give Connor a lap dance, and she's not really looking forward to it. And then we go into the next chapter, and we see Connor working at Cobalt Inc. And I think it was mentioned a little bit in Addicted to You what Cobalt Inc. is, but they've got
magnets, diamonds.
Yeah, it's magnets and
sorry.
No, I can't remember all of them, but they're like different subsidiaries
that
they own.
Magnets, paint.
Yeah. We see Connor, he's acting as the interim CEO. His mom is the CEO, but he's acting as her interim. And he says in his thoughts that like he knows that he's going to get this job. Nepotism, but like also he's very smart, and it would make sense to hand this over to him, but he wants to really prove that it's not just nepotism getting him here, and it's his intelligence. So he's working to get his MBA from Wharton.
Yeah, because he's also dealing with a bunch of high ups that have seen him grow up.
Yes,
so it's hard.
They'll see him as a child.
Yeah.
And that's something that we'll see. Connor does not hold a lot of weight when it comes to ages and what that means. And Connor feels like, despite the fact that he's 24, but like has been so successful, they still try and treat him as a young 24 and even younger because they've seen him around the office with his mom. He's like, no, stop that. I'm so much smarter than you all, and it has nothing to do with my age and all to do with my big brains. But yeah, so Connor talks about how he doesn't need the MBA, but he wants it to kind of prove that he
And it's part of his
deserves.
plan. He's like set out his plan, and he wants what they call it his dream. Like,
Yes.
he wants to accomplish his dream.
Yes. And then in the middle of this meeting, Rose sends her first. It's not her first, but it's the first time we see it. Her first fuck, kill, marry.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's female authors for this one. But this is something that we will see them
Virginia
play.
Woolf, Jane Austen, and Anne Bronte.
Yes, we see them play this game a whole lot.
I know.
And
it's so funny to see too, like, they're so smart and they're playing such a like childish game.
I know. But it's like, and it's a childish game, but like they make it mean more. Like they will dig into, why did you pick the answers that you did? I want to know more about it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like how they can get to know each other through that game.
Yeah.
Like most people are just like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's just like gut instinct. Let me go with these answers or whatever, and they're really thinking about it. And yeah, and then we meet Connor's mom also in this chapter, and she has not met Rose at this point.
But she wants to.
Yeah, she's insisting to Connor that they need to meet at some point, and Connor's trying to keep them apart because he knows that they will clash.
Yeah, but I like how she calls him out on it because she's like, you can stop pretending like she's too busy to see me or whatever, and lying to both of us.
Yeah, and it's also mentioned, so like the reason that he doesn't want them to meet is because Rose has a lot of ambition, and his mom, Katerina, does not want, like, she thinks Connor should be with someone with less ambition so that their sole focus can be on Connor.
Yeah, she wants him to have a trophy wife. Like, stays home, raises the babies, does the cooking, cleaning, all the good stuff.
Well, yeah, she has nothing wrong. She's nothing against Rose being a powerful woman.
Yeah, she's all for it.
But yeah, she's a powerful woman herself, but she doesn't think that a powerful woman should be Connor's partner.
She thinks they'll grow to resent them.
Yes.
Each other.
Yes. And then she's also like, why are you with her? Like, she brings up this fact that he shouldn't be with her, and Connor gives pushback, but she's like, well, you don't love her at the very least, right? Like, please at least tell me that you don't love Rose. And Connor's like, no, of course I don't love her. She fascinates me, but I don't love her. And so we're seeing like where a lot of Connor's belief in love stems from is his mother also has adopted this belief.
And once again, we see Caroline brought up.
Yes.
So
we don't like Caroline.
We don't even know her.
Yeah, she like literally never shows up on page, but
no,
we don't like her.
She spilled a drink on Rose. That was enough for me. I was done with her.
Yes.
Oh, well, she's brought up because Rose's mom says you need to set your sights on a girl like Caroline.
And then also in this chapter, we get Scott calls Connor, and I love this. He's grocery shopping, and he's like, I'm picking up groceries for the girls. And it's a dig at Connor because Connor's so busy at work and studying for his MBA that like Connor has so little time to be at home and present with Rose, and Connor doesn't like the idea of Rose being around Scott too much, so this is like a sore subject for him. But then Scott's like, well, I'm gonna pick up something for Rose, can you tell me what her favorite food is? And Connor gives him all of the wrong answers.
Not just the wrong answers, it's all like me in another way.
Yes.
And then right before they get off the phone, he says dark chocolate.
Yes. But yeah, and then he hangs up and he's like, oh, Scott is messing with me. Like, I can recognize that Scott's messing with me, and I don't like it. But it's working.
Yes, he hates that it's working.
He knows what he's doing. He's still kind of falling for it. Okay, so into the next chapter, we see Samantha being Samantha, and she's texting Rose the countdown to the wedding. Rose is in charge of planning the wedding for Lily and Lo, and Samantha is like 5 months and however many days, and God, we're going to see this a lot throughout the rest of the book.
5 months, 20 days until the wedding, Mom.
Yeah.
And then
That's it.
And then we get
It's
another.
not even like, can I help with anything? Or I hope planning is going well. Just like, you have this long until the wedding. Good luck.
She's so annoying.
We already know from all of the other podcasts how much I hate Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I continue to hate Samantha.
Yes. No, she is right under. Actually, all the parents in this book suck.
Oh yeah,
Like,
they're not great parents.
no.
None of them are. So it's Rosa and Lily. So this chapter is like a really short one, but it's Rosa and Lily, and Scott comes in from the grocery store. And I do like that in this chapter we get that Scott kind of like picks on Lily a little bit for being shy and quiet. He's like, "Why aren't you trying to have sex with me?" And she explains, she's like, "I'm monogamous. I don't want to have sex with anyone else besides Lo." That like, and I love that she's trying to give this very real representation of what a sex addict could look like.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so sweet. She's like, if there's one other girl out there that's similar to me that like knows that she's not alone, then I want to be that person for her. It's like, oh,
Yes.
Lily,
And I really
so
loved
sweet.
how she mentioned, sorry, I'm not sure if it's in this chapter, but I know she says that like when she's having sex, she feels like she's in control. She feels powered. Like she knows she's good at this.
In Addicted for Now, and then I didn't get to talk about that, but Rose brings it up in this chapter.
Okay. And I just thought that was really special because like that can be anything. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be sex, but I think a lot of people find like my worth is only in this. Right. And I remember my therapist asking me straight up, she was like, yes, I go to therapy. But my therapist asked, she goes, if someone doesn't have kids, does that make them less of a person? If someone doesn't have a car, does it make them less of a person? Like, no. And she's like, so then why would you do that to yourself? Why would you put that on yourself that you're less of a person because of something you don't have or you're not doing? So did that make sense?
It does make sense.
Like
right.
You can.
You're right.
Yeah. People put their self-worth in what they do, and it's not what they do or what they have. It's more than that.
Wow. It is more than that. But yeah. So
am I being too philosophical?
No, I love it. These are the conversations I want to be having.
Okay.
Yeah, this is perfect. But yeah, it's like we're doing a Go Lily, like just I'm very proud of her in this chapter, and then we also are kind of dampened because Scott just continues to be a dick. And
there's one thing everybody in the house is on the same page on as far as our core group goes is like, don't mess with Lily and Lo. Like,
right. No, because they've already been through so much at this point. Don't mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very end, Scott gives Rose dark chocolate. He's like, I got this for you. And it surprises me because like, he was being so genuine about it. Like, I really wanted to get you something that you like. I don't know why he thought Connor would give him a correct answer.
First time I read it, I thought he did. I was like, why would you say that, Connor? I was so hard on him. And now I just love him. I want him. Call me.
Scott gives Rose the dark chocolate. And I love that she knows it was Connor. She's like, I hate dark chocolate. Oh, Connor gave him this information, didn't he? They know each other so well.
Oh, and they're just so fun. Like, oh. I think the most like attractive part of their relationship is like their connection with each other, like their ability to know what's going on with the other person and say the right thing and be there. Like, and just like it's so much more than just verbally what they say. They can pick up on the body language of each other so well. So then we get the next chapter. The guys are looking for the rat trap. Daisy's staying down in the basement. And there was a rat. They had already laid the rat traps, so this rat had like gotten caught and then ran away. So Reich's the one in the crawl space right now trying to find it. And I love it because he's complaining. He's the second tallest of the three of them. Connor's 6'4", Reich 6'3", Lo is 6'2". Like, but I love that it's how about we get Lo climbing in here because he's the smallest and like. But they're all giants. Very small men. No. Maybe Lily. Could you imagine? Lily.
Oh my God. Poor Lily going after. Yeah. But this is the moment when Connor has the talk with Lo about, and like, in fairness, we don't want this. Like, we don't want Lily to be pregnant because at this point they're still in recovery, but they're also so in the media, and it would be really scary, I think, at this point. I also don't know if it was mentioned that when they moved into the townhouse too, beforehand they had bodyguards to protect them, and now they don't. They had to give up their bodyguards.
That was part of the contract they signed.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was part of the contract, not just because they moved into the townhouse, but they've given up their bodyguards. So, like, they're pretty vulnerable at this point. And for Lily to be pregnant at a time like this would just be not good. So, like, in fairness, it is something that maybe we should mention to Lo.
Because Lily's not the most responsible person, especially when it comes to taking her birth control.
Yeah. But Lo is defensive about everything. And I like it because Connor tries to justify his reasoning of, like, I'm giving you this talk because Rose wants me to give you this talk, and like, I like Rose, so I'm doing this because I'm trying to get on Rose's side. But it's this, yeah, it's, I want my words to mean something, so I gave him my selfish reason. I'm the asshat who only cares about himself. I am what he needs me to be. And that's something that we'll see with Connor and Lo's dynamic throughout the series. Is Connor has a different relationship with Lo than Reich has with Lo, and Connor really tries to be that friend and that support system for Lo when he needs it.
And he does it in a way that's unconventional to a lot of people. Because I remember even back when he was like, yeah, he's an alcoholic, I know that, but if I pull a beer out of his hand, that's not going to help. He's going to pull away from me, you know?
Yeah.
And so he does that kind of like, I don't know, but he keeps them close. Like, doesn't push it too hard, but enough that, like,
there's like kind of a sense of manipulation around the friendship, but like, you can tell that it's coming from a place where Connor cares.
Yeah. And I don't even know what chapter it was in, but I know that he states in this book, like, it might have started off as like me using them, but it's turned into genuine friendships.
Yeah.
With these people.
I love that.
I know.
And then, so at the end, they finally find the rat, and they say that Daisy needs to move out of the basement. And Reich will move into the basement. And it's this whole thing of like, well, it was more like Daisy can't live down here with the rat, and it was like, well, where's Daisy gonna go then? And like, into your room?
Yeah,
Reich?
Lo.
Like, no, I'll sleep down in the basement. Calm down.
It's so, and I like how Connor, like, honestly, this was another one that, like, going back and reading it a second time, I caught a lot of like Connor's thought process on things, and I was like, oh my God, this is how I've always thought of the Reich and Daisy situation, you know, like, and it's like, I just completely missed it because I was so focused on Connor and Rose that I didn't see their logic behind it.
Yes.
And I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah, it all starts to click.
Yeah.
Rereading is my favorite.
I know.
It's one of the things, I say it all the time.
I'm going to have to thank you for that.
Yeah. Here to finish, but I'm like, if you reread, like, if you finish and then you reread, you catch so many more things. There's so many layers to Krista and Becca's writing. Okay. So I think at the end of that last chapter, they ask Connor to come upstairs because it's time for Rose to give him the lap dance. And they come upstairs, and Rose is so uncomfortable. I think it's Daisy is giving Rose a pep talk of like how to give a lap dance, and I think, is it Reich is the one that talks about like, this is basically what like having sex is when the girl's on top, and like, shouldn't Lily be giving this advice? Why is Daisy giving this advice? But Connor can sense that Rose is uncomfortable, so he changes the terms of the bet and asks if he can give Rose the lap dance instead. Which since it was a bet between Rose and Lo lets him do it. Scott's off to the side, like, trying to orchestrate all of this, and he's probably not happy about this. He would have rather Rose given the lap dance, but no, Connor's gonna fuck with his plans. So Connor gives Rose the lap dance instead, which again we see a little more foreshadowing with what Connor's like in bed. He like pulls off his belt and he ties her hands to the chair. Oh my god.
What is
okay, Connor? We got.
Oh yeah, it was hot.
We're getting a real good sense of this. Got it. And there's a point too. I love that she's so in her head about this, and she even like looks to Scott and wants to say something sassy to him, and Connor like pulls her attention back. Is like, don't give him any attention. It's just you and me. You need to focus on me. And I love that. And then he kisses her and like really gets her out of her own head.
Oh.
And then it's just, I love when Connor gets back at Scott, like anytime in the book. And this is one of those times where
if Scott stumped his toe, I'd be happy. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd be like, win, loser.
Yes. But so they're making out and Scott makes them stop and he's like, well, we're not trying to make a porno or something like that. I can't remember. But then Connor's like, did I make you uncomfortable? Allow me to accommodate your feelings. Then there's the door. You'll be much happier on the other side of it. And I'm sitting here like, yes, Connor, I love you. Oh my God.
It is, because
just please stick it to Scott. And
you see a little bit of that, like,
all the props.
Burn that, like, Reich and Lowe deliver. You know, like, that kind of, like, not so subtle, like, I'm smarter than you. It's also kind of like, no, fuck you, leave.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, go. Nobody wants you here. But yeah, so then Scott does leave. He's not happy, and Rose then points out like, you just fucked with his plans.
He's gonna get back at us.
Yeah, it's not. He's gonna try again, but with something that you won't be able to fuck up. He's gonna try harder, and we keep getting that sense of like, Scott's fucking with us.
There's something, the whole book, you're like, what is his end goal here? Like, what is he trying to do?
There's just this looming sense of tension when it comes to Scott, and like, he's making all of these plans, and we're kind of foiling them, but at the same time, it's like he's gonna try harder and do something bigger. What is this bigger thing that he's gonna do? Yeah, so. Then it's a couple days later, Rose wakes up from another text from Samantha.
5 months, 12 days, wedding.
And I think this is another first moment of seeing them trade quotes back and forth. They're talking about mothers, and they have this thing where they just pull quotes out from literature that they have consumed. That has to do with whatever topic they're talking about. So in this case, it's quotes about mothers, and then they like quiz each other on who actually wrote that.
So cute.
They are. But Rose asks Connor to share something real, and his real thing is that he wants kids with her. This is the first book that I've read from Krista and Becca, and like, we're in chapter 11 and this guy's already talking about wanting to have kids with her. This was so different from anything I had read at this point. I was like, wow, okay. They're very serious. I didn't realize how serious it was.
And I just like how he goes about it, though, because I know people were like, she didn't want kids, and he like pressured her. And I'm like, no. I was like, Rose is someone that has the mentality that she needs to know she's not doing it alone.
Right.
Like, I said that before.
Yes.
So she needs the plan first. Right. And then she can decide if she wants to do it or not.
Yeah. At this point, she has like dated, but not like anything super serious. So it's hard for her to picture herself with a partner in the future. Connor's the first guy that's like lasted long enough. And even at the beginning with Connor, it was very on, off, because it was just.
Was it though?
Yeah.
Or was that just a little cat and mouse thing going on?
But yes, she definitely needs. There's definitely this sense of she hasn't fully wrapped her head around the fact that she could have support, and up until now, all she's been able to picture is being by herself, and that's not.
I think she had a bit of parentification too, put on her with her sisters.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yeah,
because between Lily being neglected and Daisy being like exploited, she's trying to like do what parents actually do and like love them and protect them.
Yeah. And then there's the one of my favorite lines. He wants to have kids with Rose. He also specifies that he would like 8 kids with Rose. And she goes, I can't even stomach having one kid. And you want me to birth a lineage. I'm not the Queen of England, procreating to secure our empire with an heir.
Oh my goodness.
And I see the empire sitting there, and I'm just like, there it is.
Cool. What?
The first one, the first mention.
It's also crazy how he wants 8 kids. I'll just
I know.
say that for now, but
yeah,
it's just
so Rose thinks it's crazy too. She talks about it. She's like, Connor, you don't even believe in love. Would you be able to love your kids?
Yeah, and he says yes, but
yeah, he lies to her. And he's like trying to, at this point, like, I want the kids, and I'm gonna give you the answer you want to hear. So yes, I could love my kids. And she's like, no, I know you're being fake right now. And yeah, he's like, I would have, like, I meant everything up until you brought love into the equation. But yeah, it's definitely, this is, at first, him wanting kids is just like this narcissistic thing of like, he's created more of himself almost at this
I
point.
almost get that, because I did say, like, even though I was like, I don't think I was ever hardcore like no kids, but I didn't see kids in my future. But I did say one time, I remember saying this to a friend, and I was like, I would be curious to see what my genetics would look like, you know, like in another human.
That would be interesting, yeah.
So
I get that.
I mean, I can get it, especially because they're so smart. Like,
yeah,
like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to see their kids
it's
too.
not just like the looks of what my kid would look like. It's like, what would the brains of my kid look like?
Yeah.
Too? Smart. Rose is so smart too. Yeah. And then at the end, Rose says, I don't mind that you don't love me the way I do you. Thank you for at least trying. But she walks away and she goes, he may not believe in fate, but I do. And I know I'm fated to be with him.
So cute. Oh my God. See, she knows it. See, that's one of those things. Like, you see Rose, she knows it deep down, but she has that normal human insecurity.
Yeah.
That we all have. Like, well, maybe not everybody, but I have it.
I think maybe not everybody has it, but it's a normal reaction to have, for sure. So then into the next chapter, Rose is giving, she's trying to give her sisters the pepper spray because they don't have bodyguards at this point, and she wants to protect them, or like wants them to have some kind of protection where they can. And I love that Daisy's in the living room, Lily's upstairs, and at this point they're trying to bring them downstairs. And I love that Rose and Reich are like shouting at them, come downstairs, we're trying to get your attention. And Daisy's like, a comic has come for you, and they're booking it downstairs. And I'm like, no, it's my comic. No, it's my comic. I know what's coming in the mail. And they're tricked. But, like, Daisy knows how to get to them. I love her.
Yeah, it's her again though, because she did that in Even Addicted to You when she was like, oh, I need to stay here tonight.
Yes.
And yeah, you know, like, it's like she knows that role with the family almost.
Poor Daisy.
I know.
I don't like that she feels she needs to be the trickster. But then Rose goes to work afterwards, and Scott's there, which
this scene, oh yeah.
So he brings her sushi, which at this point it's something that she does like, and they kind of pretend that they're
civil.
Well, civil, but they like really lean into the fact that he was her ex-boyfriend. Like, oh, you brought me sushi, but you never used to like eating sushi with me. And Rose is trying to paint him as like the shittiest. He was the shittiest boyfriend, and he's still a shitty ex-boyfriend. She's like, all right, fine. If we're going to have to play this role, then I'm not going to paint you in a good light. But we also see
that she starts questioning it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was like painful.
He gets her guards down because she gets really honest with him about, she says that she doesn't want Daisy to go back to the Villanova house after they're done filming. She wants Daisy to live with her and Lily because she's worried about what kind of environment their mom is having Daisy live in, which is pretty vulnerable for her. And it's kind of like what you were saying, where she says that she doesn't want to have kids, but she's still very maternal. I know that Scott like questions, oh, you like want to adopt your sister to like raise her or whatever, but like she still has this kind of maternal sisterly role. Like, no, she doesn't want to be her mom, but she still wants to protect and love her sister. And she thinks she can do that a little better than their actual mother.
I agree.
Yeah.
She definitely, yeah, it's the parentification, like making her take on more of a role as a parent to her siblings than she should have had to.
Yeah.
But,
and then, and Rose brings up the fact that, like, she's different than Daisy, too. That she lived kind of a similar upbringing where Samantha was very in her business. And, like, not just her fashion company, but just, like, constantly being involved in Rose's life.
Trying to get her in sports and... Yeah,
and Rose would give pushback a lot. Rose was very... I think she says she's very obstinate and I can't remember whatever the other word is, but like she pushed back a lot. And Daisy is not that way. Daisy is very she's the yes kid.
People pleasing.
We've seen a lot of at this point, and we'll keep seeing it a little more, that Daisy won't push back. And
no.
I think Rose even says at some point that when she moved out and she was an adult and she knew that because Rose had moved out and Samantha couldn't be as involved in her life, she was going to turn her focus to Daisy. And Rose was really upset about knowing that Daisy was going to have to go through that, but she wouldn't have the ability to say no to their mom, and that was going to really affect her, which is so sad.
It is. Hey.
Yeah, and also she doesn't want to make the same mistakes that she did with Lily of missing the signs that Lily was struggling.
And again, like, that's so crazy because she's the sister and she's thinking that. Like, that's something a mom would think. Like, I don't want to miss that. Yeah, like, it definitely shows where Rose got put in that parentification situation. And...
yeah. But also, like, how much she loves her sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Rose is the best sister ever.
So, into the next chapter, Connor is still very busy between schoolwork and actual work. So he's up super early one morning, and Rose catches him. She, like, pops up in the kitchen and is like, "What are you doing? I want to help you." And Connor's not letting her help him.
It's kind of like a role reversal a little bit there, because it's like Rose or Connor always knows what's good for Rose, and in this situation Rose is trying to, like, do that.
Connor is being very obstinate in this moment and refusing to accept the help. And so he tries to get her to stop. Then he also asks her where he ranks in her life.
Again, I thought this was so cute because it's such a childish question. Like,
I know. Am I the most important person in your life?
On my MySpace, where would I rank?
Yeah, and he does not rank as the highest. She's like, I have sisters. So he understands, like, her family comes first for her, but Poppy has been demoted. She's like, you're at least above Poppy. She's not around enough. I think that's Rose's justification. She's not around enough.
Yeah.
And then we also learn that Connor almost had twin brothers, that Katerina had twins, and there was a complication during their birth, and they died.
It's so sad because she just went right back to work.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it too much in the prologue, but we see a lot of this distance and coldness that Katerina keeps with Connor, where she was married to Connor's dad, Jim Elson, and they divorced and never told Connor. He just, like, came home from boarding school one day and they're like, "Oh, by the way, I divorced your father."
Yeah.
And then Connor's dad is, like, really never in the picture again. So she's just very cold about the fact that she loses her.
Yeah, which is a form of grief.
Yeah, it is.
It is. But it's just sad because she has another child as well, and it definitely played a part in his mental outlook on relationships.
And what he talks about it, but it is so interesting to wonder what Connor would have looked like if he had younger siblings.
And he even wonders that, doesn't he?
Yeah,
because he's like, would I have loved him? Like, and he probably would have.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too, because
it's a weird thing to even try and picture with him.
Yeah,
And then Rose does leave at the end, but I also love this quote. It was like, I'll see you when we cross paths again. How can you be sure we will? Because we always do. And I thought I love that because like they have known each other since they were 14 and 15.
Yeah.
And just like the fact that their paths have
Always
continued to cross. It's 10 years late, almost 10 years later. I think it's 9 years actually.
And also significant in that chapter is how Connor told Rose that, because he said he's never told anybody but Frederick, his therapist, that.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like him opening up a little bit more, like giving her a little more of himself.
Opening up. And I feel like, I mean, maybe it was less trying to pull teeth. Sometimes trying to get Connor to share certain things can be like pulling teeth. And like there needs to be a game involved.
And doesn't she tell him where he ranks?
It's around where she tells him where he ranks, and I think she shares that information, and he shares that like I almost had twins, or like twin brothers.
Yeah, because she says he ranks number 3.
Yeah, no, so it's I have siblings, as her justification for why she was ranking him lower, and then he just like willingly shares that he almost had brothers. Yeah. But so that leads into the next chapter where Rose leaves, and then she gets in the shower instead of going back to bed. Coming up, and Scott comes into the showers too. And as we talked about, like they can see their heads at the very least, and Rose is not comfortable with the idea of Scott being in the bathroom while she's naked.
And at this point, Connor hasn't even seen that much of her.
Right.
Like,
no, she's very private at this point. But Scott gets into the shower next to her, and she's,
and he's doing it to make her. He takes her towel so she can't get out. Yeah. Like he's there to make her uncomfortable.
Yes, he's just being a dick. And then we get Connor to the rescue. So Connor comes in, and she's like, "Oh yes, he could tap me out." And he's like, "Is my shampoo in that stall?" And yes, your expensive shampoo is in here. And Connor
back up when I left.
Strips. I love that. Like Scott he doesn't even bother acknowledging Scott. Like
no.
Connor knows how to get at him, and he does not acknowledge him, and just strips all the way down right in front of him. Does not care what Scott sees or doesn't see. Like you are nothing to me.
It's that time. BDE.
Oh yeah, Connor definitely has the BDE.
Yes.
And then he gets into the shower with Rose.
Yes.
And poor Rose is like trying to be so natural about this. Like she understands that they're trying to get one up on Scott. Like Connor's rescuing her, but at the same time he's going to be pushing her boundaries, and she gets that, but like they're still trying to pull this over on Scott, and she can't just be jumping. Like everyone thinks that they should be at a different stage in their relationship, and they aren't, and she's trying to now she suddenly has to get herself there. And she's like, I think she's shaving her legs or something, and Connor comes up behind her and touches her butt, and she yells. Poor Rose.
I mean, I'm sorry, I would yell too if that's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
Unless like
and Scott laughs at her because he's the dick.
He is.
Like of all of your reactions, it can't just be like snicker to yourself. He's just like full on laughing at her. I hate him. And poor Rose feels so sorry. She's like, I'm not trying to undermine Connor in this instance. Like there are plenty of times where she tries to undermine him, and this is not one of those cases actually. She's trying to be his
partner.
Teammate. Yeah, and she accidentally yelps. So she turns around and she's like,
I feel like that was more like, but then Connor does think that too. But like I was like, it's not that strange. Like I don't know. Even if they had done stuff before, like I feel like if you're in the shower shaving your legs and someone touches your butt, you're gonna be like, what's going on?
I wasn't expecting. Yeah, you should be showering yourself.
Yeah,
what's right there? I mean, yeah. In her defense, it's like, are we really going to go that far? Not right there, but I guess Connor is trying to make him as uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, so. And she is. She wants to, as
Yeah.
well, but she's just
Yeah.
new.
So, she turns around because she's like trying to apologize to Connor with her eyes, and I think he sticks his thumb in her mouth again, but this time she moans. Oh yeah. And I love that the chapter ends that Rose moans, and then it goes into the next chapter, and Scott is leaving. Like, immediately, I'm out of here. And Connor's like, yeah, Scott has his limits, and listening to my girlfriend moan over me sticking my thumb in her mouth, yeah, that's his limit, and goodbye to him. Yes. I love that. Yeah. Definitely a Roman Empire moment there.
Yes. Get out of here, Scott.
And they stay in the shower after he leaves, and Rose, like, they continue to push the boundaries of their relationship, and Rose gives Connor her first blowjob as thank you.
And it was so okay. So I found it so significant because she gave up power in that moment. Like, because she was like, I want to be the best at this, and obviously I can't be the best because I've never done it before.
Right.
And that's where Connor's like, I got you, darling. Like, let me help you. And it's so cute.
And I love that, like, he, like, knows how to get her, like, she's uncomfortable, and there's a point where she just sits there with his dick in her mouth, and she doesn't know what to do, and she's like upset with herself, and he knows all of the ways to get her riled and like show her how to do it without being too pandering about it. So he wants to return the favor for her and go down on her, and she doesn't want, she stops him, and he's like, why? And then he can set, like, she's like, I don't need a man to get me off. Like, basically, I'm an independent woman, and I can get myself off. And that's when he recognizes that she thinks that all he wants is her virginity. And she talks about it in an earlier chapter, that she's worried that the only reason he's with her is because he loves a challenge, and she's the biggest challenge of de-virginizing the ultimate virgin.
And it's not even just him. She says, like, guys have done that before. Like,
yes,
they're just trying to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be done.
He can tell in this moment that he understands that that's her fear. And then we get the best line. You're not a pit stop. You're my finish line. There's no one after you. Connor Cobalt, man that you are.
It's great.
I love that. There's also a bit like before that I also like. What gets me off is the way a strong woman can give herself to me the moment she passes through a door, the minute I can overpower a girl during a fit of passion, and then we can go back to matching each other once again. Why would I want someone who can't keep up with me? What enjoyment is there in that? I like that he says it's.
Yeah, he's acknowledging her.
He's talked about it, but this is definitely another, like a more succinct way of articulating why Rose is just so perfect for him over anybody else that he's been with. But yeah, there's so many good Connor lines. The pit stop, I want you for eternity, not for a brief moment in time. And poor Connor, he's like trying to convince her, and he's like, oh my god, everything I'm saying just sounds like some cheesy line, but the fandom is back here like, oh my god, Connor, we love this. This is so romantic. We know you're not being cheesy.
And then we get our hard woman, Rose, who's like, okay, I wish I could believe that, but
yeah, I'm gonna try. Yeah, it's something like, I'm gonna try and believe that, but it's gonna take more than words.
In the future.
Yeah.
Will Connor deliver?
Yeah. I try to imagine a life without Rose, and I see something gray, something motionless, a world without time, and a place without color. Like, he's so poetic.
It's beautiful. Krista and Becca, like, who said that to you? That's so sweet.
I know. I love it. Yeah. Definitely one of my favorite chapters.
I can't lose her, not for anything.
No.
Who would have thought a blowjob chapter would be this sentimental?
Oh, yeah. And then it's that part where you were saying that she wants to believe him, but it's going to take more than words. And then he's like, she leaves me with a new challenge, but I'd be with her without all the tests, all the hoops she makes me jump. I do enjoy them, but I enjoy her more.
That's a good chapter.
It is a very good chapter. Just like fully solidifies for me why they are so perfect for each other. So then we get the next chapter. Connor is running late. They're meant to watch. There's like it's not an official watch party, but the first trailer for Princesses of Philly is going to be airing on TV, and he's running late because he's just so busy. I think he had a business meeting in New York that he's trying to get back to Philly from.
His plate is so full between getting his master's.
Yeah, yes. He's just
the business.
We learn that like he has not been sleeping. He's been awake for 37 hours, I think, at this point.
And you also see that he has like, it's like the first time I really saw like a human like thought in him. And he's thinking like, I need to be there. This is important. Like, if I'm not there, I could walk in on something I don't want to see, or
he has this fear that Scott is going to steal Rose from him. I'm sitting here like, I've seen the future at this point. Scott is not an issue. He's a very, I don't want to call him.
Well, he is an issue.
He is an issue, but he's not the issue
for your relationship.
Yeah, that you're thinking.
Yeah,
and that's not something you have to worry about with Rose.
No,
but he is. Yeah, I think in this chapter too, he's so worried that he's gonna walk in the door and Rose is gonna be like kissing him.
Almost like a girl reaction, because like an insecurity that you're like afraid, like I'm not there and they're there and that's gonna happen. And it really endeared him to me a little bit, like in that moment.
Definitely a more human reaction out of Connor. But then because he's struggling to stay awake, he's driving too. He calls Frederick, so we get to meet Frederick, his therapist, for the first time, and we learn a little bit more about Frederick too, that he was like this young therapist, like fresh out of college, but he was very, very intelligent too. And Connor was in charge of picking his therapist at the ripe old age of 12.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So Connor decides that Frederick will be the perfect therapist for him. And he knows so much about Connor at this point. They've been through it all. And
he calls him his best friend.
Yeah, basically. He is his best friend. He knows all of Connor's secrets. But Connor asks for an Adderall prescription, which is big because we knew back in Addicted to You, Lily was like, "Are you on Adderall?" And he's like, "No, I would never take Adderall.
You
can take it, but
cheating.
I would never." Yeah, it feels like cheating. And we see him breaking down enough that he's asking for it. And there's this whole thing where Frederick's like, "You told me that if you ever came to me and asked for Adderall, I was supposed to tell you no." But Connor's very persistent and convinces him otherwise.
Yeah.
He's like, "You want to cause a 4-car pileup on the highway because I'm driving?"
Yeah, he gets a little
on you.
Openly manipulative.
Yes.
Manipulative.
Of course, Connor's going to manipulate his therapist. God.
Yeah. And I like how because you see him like his mental process on this, and like it's literally work, school, Rose. Yeah. And it's like something's got to give. And he's like, well, it can't be Rose, it can't be my dream, it can't be work. So we see
I guess like work is his legacy. So it's like his partner, his dream, or his legacy.
Yes.
Nope, can't give up any of those. So Adderall it is. And Frederick very reluctantly agrees to give him a prescription. And then Connor comes home and we see chaos. It's absolute chaos.
This scene reminds me of Mean Girls when the burn book gets released and the school's like,
you see that? Yes. Like, because I think it's Riker Lowe is shouting at, I think it's Lowe is shouting at Scott, and Reich is trying to hold, and Reich and Lily are trying to hold Lowe back maybe, and Rose is trying to go at him with
a heel. No, Reich is trying to hold Rose back.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. But she's got her heel and she's like trying to get at Scott, and Connor gets in the way and she
stabs him.
Stabs poor Connor with her heel. Like, oh, it's chaos.
And she instantly feels bad and drops it.
Yes. But so Connor sits down and we get to see what it is that they saw with this trailer to understand what caused the chaos. And it's basically the way it is them all standing on a soundstage, just being themselves. And Daisy, I remember drawing this. This was like, I remember reading this during a reread after I had made the We Are Calloway doc page. And I was like, this is something I have to draw. And I did not include Scott because he did not deserve to be there, but I drew everybody else. And Daisy's doing a handstand, and then Reich pushes her over, and Lily and Lo are holding on to each other and are about to kiss. And then Rose is standing between Connor and Scott, and she's like more turned towards Connor, but there's like a very brief moment where she like looks over at Scott.
Him.
And their labels are Daisy is the daredevil, Reich is the jackass, Lo is the alcoholic, Lily is the sex addict, Connor is the smartass, Scott is the heartthrob, and Rose is the virgin. And everyone is pissed off at their labels. And then Connor comes in, he's like, people label you all the time, every day of your life.
And this is where we see how Connor really has that hold over like the friendship group of like being the voice of reason. Like he can get through and calm them down.
He stereotyped us and made us as though we're caricatures. So people label you the moment they meet you. You're an ice cold bitch. You're a man-hating prude, a rich, stuck-up brat. They only tell a fraction of the truth, and if you let them hurt you, you let them win. And then afterwards, she's like, how did you just like stop? How can you come in here and like we were all so upset over this, and all of a sudden you're like making complete sense. And that's really annoying, but also thank you for doing that.
He's the voice of reason.
And Lo's like, he has a gift. and then Connor's like, no,
I mean,
given by me. I have this power. We can't just like let some other higher being claim this thing that I have.
God's always getting my credit.
Yes. God always has a way of stealing my
credit. I love
Lo
and Connor so much. Like their friendship, like
Connor looks over at Scott. Like everyone has finally calmed down. Connor is just a sense of calm, and Connor looks over at Scott, and Scott's pissed because obviously it's a reality show and he wants the drama, and Connor just came in and cooled all of the drama. And I think it's interesting because I've listened to like, I don't know if Krista and Becca, if I've listened to them talk about it, but other writers will talk about like, you can't just bring in this thing and someone's a drama killer, and like you can't have a book where this person comes in and kills the drama, because then like what's left of the book. I think it's interesting that like in this one instance
it fits.
Yeah, I actually want that. But yeah, so he calms them down. Scott's pissed that he did that, and he mouths to Scott, "Don't fuck with me." And then he says, "These 5 people mean more to me than words can express. I've never once felt like I had a real family, but with them, I know I do."
Same, Connor, same.
Just like for someone who, he never really had a family. His mom was so distant. His dad was never present. He got sent to a boarding school to grow up. Like, he's never had this sense.
I mean, he has grown up with his worth being his brain.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and that's where he thinks about everything so logically. Yeah, he uses his brain to like work things out. That's why he's like finding the love thing too right now.
Yeah, no, I think, I can't remember if it was in this moment when I was doing my notes, but you're really starting to see Connor says that he doesn't love anyone, but like
he does.
You're seeing these little instances of
he doesn't know what love is because he hasn't.
He can't recognize it, but as someone who does recognize love, I see it.
Yeah.
You can lie to yourself all you want, but I see it right now, Connor. Okay. So then into the next chapter, it's finally premiere time for Princesses of Philly, and Greg and Samantha decide that
oh my god,
they want to host the ritziest watch party with all of their socialite friends. And Rose is like, "This is so stupid.
This is such a bad idea.
Yeah,
I would not."
It's a reality show. We're not going to be in the best light.
No.
You want all of your friends to watch this and see, how, like.
And I don't want to see your reaction to my life.
Right. Yeah, it's one thing to like because they have some pretty open conversations about sex and all of, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, it's one thing to know that, okay, maybe you went and watched it later on, but to actually know and witness you watching
Yeah.
me talk about,
It's like when I hear writers talk about, that write sex scenes and um, they're always like, the parents are like, oh, we just, pretend that didn't happen. Or,
yeah,
I think it was Julie Soto's signing I
okay.
went to, and her mom was there, and she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, she's a cool mom.
Ooh, very open.
Yeah, it
Love
was
that.
funny though.
So we see Lily and Lo, the way Rose puts it is like, at the height of their addictions, they would have been hiding in a corner, enabling each other. But they're
Mm-hmm.
here. They're like they're in this fishbowl at this point. Everyone knows their business that Lily is a sex addict.
But they're facing it.
Yeah, and they're facing this judgment because these are like Greg and Samantha's friends, and Samantha, and like, they're very judgmental of their own daughter. Yes, these friends around them are probably going to be even more judgmental about them, and
Mm-hmm.
Lily and Lo are braving it out. And Rose says that she's so proud of Lily for it, and that it's easier to be born strong than to find a strength that you never thought existed. For that, I believe she has more courage and prowess than I could ever possess.
Best
Rose
sister
is,
ever.
yes, just
I
putting her
love
sister up on
Rose.
the pedestal to know, like, you are a
Yeah.
strong woman.
And it's
I
just
love
so,
her.
because she's so smart, and she was so scared her sister was going to be so judgmental. And she is literally
Yeah.
like Lily's number one fan. Like, she's
Yes.
like, we're going to do this. We're going to take care of it. You got this. You got this.
Yeah.
And I just love Rose as a sister.
She's, she's the best sister. And then we also see Connor schmoozing with
Oh,
Patrick Newbell. And again, him putting on this face, because it was so jarring for me to get to this part, because I'm now so used to Connor talking the way he does, the way he normally sounds, and then he's like, yeah, bro, and dude, and all of this stuff. Like, who is this person? I can
yeah.
understand why Rose is like, why are you putting on this face? Why are you being so fake for this? So then the show premieres, and it's a bit of a shit show. Like, they definitely don't edit them in the best light, and this is all thanks to Scott. Like, Scott
Mm-hmm.
is in charge of the editing, so we can all point our blame at him. But one of the big things that we do find out while they're watching is, I think it happens during an interview with the guys, that Daisy comes in during Reich's interview, and she asks him to come downstairs to look at something, and we find out that Daisy was assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that people are very upset, like Philly locals are
Mm-hmm.
upset at them, and this one guy hurts her. Like, she has bruises on her side, and he smashed up her motorcycle,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't want to tell anyone
Anyone show.
because
Yeah.
she doesn't want Lily and Lo to feel guilty. Like, a lot of this stems from the fact that Lily's sex addiction is public, and that's why
And they're all
people
trying to
can now
protect her.
put this face to who these people are and know who Daisy is. Like, the Callaways were so faceless before this. Like, I don't know what the family of Coke, what they look like. And that was the way they were meant to be, but now they're very nationally recognized.
Mm-hmm.
So she feels guilty that she doesn't want Lily and Lo to feel guilty that because of this she's
Mm-hmm.
she's been hurt.
It's not their
And
fault this happened.
no, it's
Yeah.
not their fault.
And
It's
she wants,
absolutely the man's fault, but she's
correct.
afraid. Yeah.
And she does not want them to, because they would. They
Yes.
shoulder that kind of stuff. It's definitely
Yeah,
in
they
their personalities.
right. So it's a hard moment to learn about for poor Daisy. But at least Reich was there with her. He says he took her to the doctor, like, got
Yeah.
her taken care of. But yeah. And then we also see a little bit of Lily in the house while everyone's out at work doing their own things.
This made me mad.
Poor Lily is like at the house alone, and the cameras around the house are filming her, and she's like struggling so hard to not give in to her compulsions.
Yeah.
And it's so embarrassing for
Yeah,
her.
because they're like airing it, and they like clipped it together so it seems like this is like
Yeah.
what she's doing all day. Like this
Yes.
isn't like hours in between or anything.
No,
Like,
yeah. And even Rose is like, are they even allowed to air this on network TV? It's just they really try and paint Lily in such a bad light.
yeah,
And
it's exploitive.
yes.
Yeah, it's because like it's. I mean, they're capitalizing on it, which they knew they were going to do that, but it's still,
Right. But to this
ugh.
extent is really
Yeah.
cruel. And she hides under poor Lily. She's like, I don't want to come out, and she hides under Lo's shirt. Don't make me come out, Lo. And
They're
Lo
so
is holding
cute.
on to
I
her
just
like,
love
yeah,
it.
no, you stay under there for as long as you want, and is glaring at everybody like, don't
Yeah.
you fucking mess with
I just
Lily.
love how protective he is. Like,
He's
and
so protective
and
of
he
her.
is so loyal. Like, I go back between Lo and Connor a lot. Like, I'm like, he's number one. No, he's.
It's so hard for me to pick a favorite.
I can't. Yeah.
And then there's a small moment at the end too where Daisy drops her phone and she accidentally flashes her undies, and
Right has to.
some guy at the party takes a picture of it, and she's like struggling to grab her phone, and Connor winds up calling Greg to deal with taking the picture, and Rose notes that like Connor seems to enjoy the chaos, and what does she say? He truly wants children. He wants the challenges that each one brings. He smiles as though he can't wait for that day where he has to deal with the hard parental choices, the dilemmas, the chaotic situations he must calm. And it's just like, I do start to understand again more of why he would want 8 kids.
Yeah.
Like, Connor is that.
Oh, he has his challenges ahead of him for those kids.
Like the way we were talking about how he loved, like he came in and he calmed everyone down
Mhm.
after the trailer. Like, yeah, that's what Connor loves to do. He can calm a situation. He'd be so good at it. Like, yeah, I understand. I get more of why
He's a perfect
even
partner.
why
You would want to raise kids with.
Yeah, while he says that like he wouldn't love them, I can still understand why
Mhm.
he would want them. Yeah. And then we get into it blends into the next chapter. We see Greg. I think Scott is standing over to the side with Samantha and talking with Greg and Samantha. And there's like some part of Connor that wants to go over there because he wants to be like on good terms with Greg and Samantha, because he's like, I want to.
And it sounds like him
Rose.
and Greg had that though, a little, like a very, the fact that like, because doesn't Greg like text him and stuff, and
Greg doesn't like Scott, but Connor is still like, I'm gonna stay over here and be supportive of Rose, and like this is where I should be. But there is some part of him that's like, no, I need to go over and talk with Greg and Samantha because I need them to be on my side.
Yeah,
I'm the one that they should want me, like they should want their daughter to be with me.
Samantha. What a mess.
I think Connor talks about like Samantha's so easily manipulated too, and like is very clearly being manipulated by Scott.
And she's also one that's showy. Like she wants to show. Obviously, she's hosting a party.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And then we get the interview. Scott gives an interview and he says something, and it plagiarizes Connor.
But Rose knows it. She knows it without being told. She said those aren't his words. Those are Connor's words.
Yeah, she knows right away. I love that she recognizes it.
I know that.
Such a good moment. Connor is standing behind her at that point too, and like I think I felt this sense of worry too at this point because Connor is he feels so all-knowing, and that like we've been talking about, he's been able to get them out of all of these situations with Scott, and Connor's surprised when he hears Scott plagiarizing him, and it's like, oh fuck, this was something that Connor didn't think of, and now I'm starting to get worried that like Scott could really one up them. And I don't like it when Connor is surprised in a bad way. I don't want to see that.
No. And like I said, this book is where we see Connor like for the human being. And
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, I'm so sorry that I'm
yeah,
putting you on this pedestal if you need to be, like, so all-knowing and godly, but, like,
but he
oh my
put
God.
himself there. He wants to be there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine, Haley.
Um, yeah. And then they cut to the clip with Connor, and Connor is talking about his thoughts on love. And he says it's like a combination of what he says and the way that Scott edits him that
Mm-hmm.
makes him look really cold, because they like cut out the part that he actually said about Rose and basically says that love holds no meaning in his life. And Rose isn't surprised by this. She already knows his thoughts on
Yeah.
love. But now everybody knows his thoughts on love, and everyone's kind of concerned at this point. It's like, and Lo, I think, is the most affected by this, because he points out that, like, Rose, why are you with this guy if he doesn't even love you? There's this selfish reason in him
Mm-hmm.
of Connor's my friend, and he doesn't even,
Love me.
he'll never love me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that. And I feel so bad for Lo.
I feel bad for Lo, but Lo's also like he's so he's just so mean sometimes.
He does, like, he's very affected by this and knows all of the buttons to push of,
I
like, Rose is only
know.
with this guy and he's gonna fuck you and leave you. And
Like it's just
Connor's
so
like really trying to,
harsh.
yeah, Connor's really trying to defend himself too against this. I'm like, please don't push Rose away. Like, I'm
Yeah.
already worried enough about it as it is. I
Yeah.
don't need Lo over here pointing this out too and like getting in her head. But yeah, it ends with Lo saying, I just want you to know that I lost some respect for you
Mm-hmm.
and you're not gonna get it back so fucking easily. And it's just like, I don't like to see the fracturing of Lo and Connor's friendship.
No.
And Connor is very clearly affected by
Yeah.
this too. And in hindsight, you're sitting here like, Connor, it's because you love Lo
No,
too.
you wouldn't care
Come
if you
on,
didn't.
stop being so pigheaded about this. And then we go into another chapter. It's super quick, but Rose is shopping, is flower shopping
Mm-hmm.
for the wedding. And she's trying to accommodate. She says, we're going to accommodate Lily's one request, which is that there are no lilies at the wedding.
Cue
And
Samantha.
yeah, so she's trying to, she actually like tries to show up to the florist before Samantha shows up, because she knows Samantha is going to be really annoying about her opinions, and she's trying to beat her mom there to place an order. Samantha shows up and she's like, well, I already called in an order. And she picks like the ugliest color combination. I think it's turquoise and orange. It's like, that's not even the color like the theme of the wedding. What are we doing? Samantha, you're in this moment, I think you have bad taste. You are a hoity-toity woman with horrible taste.
And then how she throws it at Rose, like, Rose, it's not a day about you, Rose.
Yeah, Rose tries to get actual roses for
Yeah.
Lily's wedding, and she's like, why would you get roses?
Rose
Your
is
name
like,
is Rose.
I don't own the name Rose. Like,
Right?
oh man.
Flower, like, the flower is not synonymous with me.
Exactly.
And then, but yeah, we see a little more of the dynamic between Rose and Samantha and how they push at each other.
This is the chapter where, let me make sure. Yeah. Where Rose is like, I don't care what Connor says. Whether Connor says it or not, he loves me enough to let me more than halfway in.
Oh.
And I know it's time for me to do the same on a different kind of level. And then she texts him, bring wine tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And tequila.
Yes. Into the next chapter where we know where Connor is during this. He's in therapy with Frederick. And they're talking about Connor having sex with Rose. And I like it because it's like Connor is so open and with Frederick about everything, but the more Frederick tries to like figure out like where's Rose's headspace with all of this, and how are we dealing with you, like with how are you dealing with the fact that she's been pushing you away in certain instances, and Connor's getting so protective and like doesn't want to talk about this with Frederick.
Yeah.
But they dig in a little more into,
this is where we see, I think this is the first time I noted anyways, where he like straight up was like, isn't this where he was like, how do you know she is a submissive? Like, maybe she's not.
Yeah, what if Rose is not? And Connor's like, no, she definitely is.
And she's just afraid to say it. And that's one of those things I missed the first read, because I was like, who does he think he is telling her how he and
Yes,
then I didn't catch that, like, no, he's like, he sees it and she's scared to say it.
right. And then they dig in a little more into why Connor doesn't believe in love, and it's smart people do stupid things when they're in love. I've yet to do something inane. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
just wait.
I know. I love how Frederick straight up is like, okay, yeah.
Sure, okay, if you say so. But then Connor gets the wine and tequila, and they're gonna play truth or dare.
Bounce, go, wow.
Yeah.
I'm here for the noise effects.
Yeah, I love the noise effect.
The
It
personal
adds-
soundboard.
Oh yeah. Um, so they play truth or dare, and it's just like it's a chapter of learning about the two of them, but it's a little more about their sex lives
Mm-hmm.
at this point. So like Rose asks for the alcohol because she feels that she needs to be loosened up, and Frederick points this out in the last chapter. It was like she's asking for the alcohol because
Mm-hmm.
she's kind of worried
She wants
and
her
needs,
inhibitions down.
yes, lower her inhibitions. But we ask like, what's Connor's favorite sex position? And it's missionary with a few alterations.
Just a few.
And then what is it? Oh, Rose also talks about like all these years I believed in the stereotype too, that to be a strong, confident woman outside the bedroom, I'd have to be equally dominant inside. But she's like, now she's starting to understand that no, she can still be a strong, confident woman outside the bedroom, but she can be submissive with Connor, and that like
Mm-hmm.
that takes nothing away from who she is outside
Yes.
of her sex life. And she's starting to recognize that a little
And
bit.
that's what, yeah, Connor wants her to feel safe.
Yes. Yeah, that's a whole thing that he has been telling her throughout the book is like, you're safe with me.
Mm-hmm.
That in this certain instance, like you can let yourself be vulnerable with
Yeah.
me and I will take care of you. You can trust me. And Connor has her reveal what her strangest sexual fantasy is.
I didn't know if we were going to talk about this or not.
It's like a spoiler alert. It comes back later.
Yeah.
But
also,
like,
so here's my little disclaimer. See, I read everybody's comments once I read a book. So like,
oh yeah,
you can't tell anybody what their kink is. Like you can't tell
right,
people they can't like something like that.
right.
Like that's not your job. It's none of your business. And
No,
if she's a consenting adult, even if she's asleep, she consented beforehand. Like
she did. Yes,
so come
there
off
are
of it.
ways
Yeah.
to like appropriately handle this. And I
Communicate. You
think they
can't tell
did.
someone you're not allowed to have that kink because yeah, you're asleep. You can't have consent. Like brah, stop
Yeah,
it. Sound like Connor right now. Brah. But yeah, but the fact that she like tells him that is so like a big
right.
step. Like,
It is a big step. Yes,
mhm.
but like they keep going, learning more about each other back and forth, and it finally gets to this point where Connor's like, I want to play with you for 10 minutes, which is another big moment. It's like, so he gets her off.
Mhm.
They don't have sex, but I don't think he goes down on her, but I think he fingers her.
I can't remember.
I can't remember the exact details, but they have not had sex yet. But he gets her off, and oh, there's this moment where she's like, God, yes, and God's not in this bedroom.
I'm literally on that page, right? I had it because I just have them marked, like, because I did the audio and I would like click
Yes.
the like
Yeah.
mark, and so I'm trying to follow along. And I literally was on that page where it's like, you like that? He says, God, yes. God's not in this bedroom, Rose.
Yeah, let's see. I want to. Oh, yeah. It's such a Connor Cobalt line.
I love it.
Yeah, but so basically he gets her off, and then they're interrupted by a banging sound going on, and they realize that it's coming from Daisy's bedroom. And when they go in, they find out that there's some guy that broke into the townhouse and is
Paparazzi, right?
Yeah, he's paparazzi. He was taking pictures of Daisy while she was asleep. And Daisy's freaking out and she's
Yeah.
smashing up the camera, and Reich heard and
She called him.
came to help her, and he's beating up
Yeah.
the paparazzi. And Rose is taking care of Daisy, and Connor goes to help Reich, like stop Reich from beating him up, but get the photographer, this paparazzi, out of the house. And Scott is there the entire time, not doing fuck all.
It's just so annoying because it literally will scar Daisy for life. Like,
yes.
Who does that?
This is a traumatic moment in her life, and yeah. But they decide that Lily and Lo can't know about this. This is another instance where if they tell them, they are going to feel like they caused this, and they can't do that to them. So that's
where it gets like so sad, because like now there's 2 instances now we have where something bad has happened to Daisy, and we're keeping it like away so we don't
hurt Lily.
We don't make them feel like they're responsible for something they didn't do. Right. It's sad situation all around in that one.
It is sad. So then into the next chapter, it's another quick one, but they're out at a restaurant. And in this chapter, we learned that Rose is going to design Lily's wedding dress for her. But mostly what we're seeing is kind of Scott just sort of poking at the core 6 and trying to get at them. Like, he says some crude things to Daisy, and like basically like, I own all of you, something like that. And just, I like seeing them stick together. They're all very defensive of each other, even while Scott is trying to tear them down.
Yeah. And this is also when you saw it happened before too. You start seeing them see people's comments about them in the media.
We also start seeing like the public opinions.
They're like finding them themselves.
Yes.
So there's like one that's, Connor is on my MFing nerves. Me too, the first read, not so much the second.
Yeah.
Ladybug 345.
Is meta the right word? When we'll keep seeing like people's comments and Twitter posts and
all the way through the series. Yeah.
Throughout all of the series, and they feel very meta. So into the next chapter, Connor winds up texting Frederick for another prescription of Adderall. He's used it all up. And Frederick calls him back and he was like, that was supposed to last you 6 months. You weren't meant to be taking that every day. And he's very worried about Connor at this point, and says that he's not going to see Connor anymore. Yeah, because Connor has like some time to sleep at this point. Like,
what was it, 3 weeks, he said?
Yeah.
I think something
for
like
at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see you anymore. You can use this time to sleep or do anything. Like, take care of yourself at this point.
He's trying to, like, and that's good. Like, he's trying to get at Connor through the way Connor will take it, like, through logic. Like, instead of seeing me, go lay down and sleep.
And then also in this, because he feels like he is going to miss Frederick. And he's like trying to entice,
bro.
Yeah, but he tries to entice him with like, I have things to talk about with
the
you
tea.
about Rose. And basically we learn that Rose is comfortable Rose at this point does feel comfortable having sex with Connor. It's just that they haven't had time to do it. But then there's another big moment, a big quote that Connor talks about, and it's about his sexuality. And he's like, sexuality is about attraction, whether it's men, women, it doesn't really matter. The human race is filled with passion and lust, and to coin terms like heterosexuality and homosexuality or even bisexuality makes no sense to me. You are human, you love who you love, you fuck who you fuck. That should be enough. No labels, no stigma, nothing. Just be to be. But life isn't that kind. People will always find things to hate. So that's
I love that quote.
It's a good quote. It's a very
important
quote to remember about Connor.
Yeah. Was he telling that to Frederick?
He doesn't say it out loud.
Oh, it's his inner monologue. Okay.
Yeah, this is an inner
Because he says something like that too, and it's been a while. That was one of my posts I highlighted, like, was that quote. And it was just that quote. Like, because he says something else similar to it, I think, again.
I think he might say it in Feel the Fire. It's
Yeah.
definitely addressed there.
Well, yes, but doesn't he tell the camera that?
I think so. It
Yeah.
was like,
Oh, yeah, because it's like, have you ever slept with a
with men.
guy? Yeah.
Yeah. Many people want to be with me. I may give them all my attention, but I'll only be with a handful. And of those, I'll only really like a
Okay.
few.
Yeah, that one's more smug.
Yes. Very smug.
It's very Connor.
Oh, that's a very Connor Cobalt answer. So then after he hangs up with Frederick, Connor's like, okay, I'm going to go find a place to sleep. I'll sleep downstairs in the basement because Daisy's out of that basement bedroom. But he hears a sound down there. And his first thought is, oh my God, it's Rose and Scott. He's still so worried about this.
I know. Connor. But I love it because it's so like...
I know. It's like, it shows how much he cares, but I want to be like...
It's one of those few moments you, as a person, can relate to Connor Cobalt. And there's not many of those because he's on a different level. So you're like, oh, I felt like that before.
Yes. So he opens the door, and it turns out that Daisy is in the basement, and that still pricks Connor's like senses of who is she down here with. She's clearly trying to hide this, and I think he even notes that like it sounded like sex noises, and she looks flushed, but she doesn't look like she's sated or something like that. And then Julian comes out. We met Julian in Addicted for Now. He was one of the models that worked at Callaway Couture.
We met him in Addicted for Now?
We did. You'll have to go back and listen to that podcast.
Well, it's not out yet.
It is out. That's part 1.
Oh, part 1. Okay.
Yes, it's in part 1.
I'm getting there.
He's like the model that bends down when Lily is hiding under the desk, and he says, "Are you gonna come out?" And that is the same Julian.
Yes, I gotta reread it all.
Yep. So we meet Julian, and he is 23. This is kind of questionable considering Daisy is only 17 at this point.
Yes.
And they're not allowed to have sex, and they're like trying to pull it off as, oh no, we're not having sex, but there was clearly something going on between Julian and Daisy in this moment that we don't trust.
Yes. So we get Connor in one of his different personalities.
Yes. And well, it's so interesting. So I always find it so fascinating because Daisy is one of those characters that we don't see Connor spend a lot of time around, and he hasn't spent a lot of time around her up to this point. But so this is a moment of Connor empathizing a lot with Daisy, and kind of pulling out this big brother role with her. So some of what she's struggling with, he recognizes of she is working. Like, she actually has a job. She's still in school. She is still only 17, but she's working, and they treat her so much like an adult while she's in this job.
And they expect it. They set those expectations on her.
Yeah, but then she goes to, like, she hangs around Lily and Lo, and they still see her as a little sister, and they try and treat her like she's 17, and Connor can recognize that, like, her maturity levels are not, like, her age does not reflect necessarily what her maturity levels are. She's been exposed to the adult world at this point and is a little more mature, but they're trying to keep her boxed in as a 17-year-old. And while, yes, that is something ideally you would want her to act more her age at this point,
you have to give her the grace.
It didn't happen. That's just not the way Daisy was raised, unfortunately.
No, she was thrown into the spotlight. She has to act like an adult. She gets paid like an adult. She performs like an adult. Like, and that's where I really loved Connor's, like, view on Daisy as like age it's not completely like necessarily a factor, you know?
Right.
Like, yes, she is young, but she is also mature. And so it's like, even for her, blurred lines of like, should I date this guy? Is this okay? Right. Like, and it's like, this guy knows it's not okay because he wants one thing.
Yes, we know what he wants. But I love seeing this moment of Connor being this big brother. We see Connor putting on the face with Julian and like trying to get on his level and be all buddy buddy bro with him and get his phone number and like, I'm gonna figure out who you are and all of that stuff, but I'm gonna be your friend. That's how I'm gonna reach you with this. And then at the end of that, Julian's like, hey, do you mind like leaving so that I can finish up with Daisy? And Connor's like, no.
You can use your
Daisy's gonna
hand.
go upstairs and make breakfast for everyone. And it's like saying it out loud doesn't necessarily sound kind, but he's being this protective big brother of like, no, you're not going to go hang out with Daisy right now. Daisy's gonna leave, and I'm gonna give her the excuse that she needs to leave, and we're gonna deal with it. Yeah,
it's clear she doesn't want to touch.
Right.
But it's like
he recognizes that.
He says,
okay,
you can finish up. You can use your hand to finish up. She needs to make breakfast, and something tells me she doesn't want to touch you. I was like,
she does not. We are going to end here for part 1 of the Kiss the Sky discussion. And then next week we will pick up with part 2. So until then, continue to stay addicted to Krista and Becca's writing like us.